I purchased every concealer that launched recently, and I've got a beast of a video for you. The way I'm structuring this video is I'm gonna review every concealer first, show you the application, talk about shades, price, texture, claims, and all that. Then I swatched every concealer, sometimes with multiple shades on my arm, and I shot it in about 5 different lighting angles. And I also waited for them to dry down so you could see up close the texture before and after the dry down to make the best decision for you. And the texture shots have 2 different lighting angles. So I really wanted to provide the best, most detailed, thorough reviews possible. A quick caveat, keep in mind, I have skin that is between fair and light and has cool pink undertones. So if you see a concealer on my arm that looks really yellow or really peach, it might actually be more neutral or slightly warm in reality. It's just that it looks super, super warm on my cool skin. So take everything with a grain of salt. Also keep in mind, I prefer concealers that are full coverage, that have a little bit of a dewy finish, but not too dewy, that have a thicker, tackier consistency so they're longer lasting and they don't just blend away. But for every concealer that I review, I will share who I think the concealer is for and who I think it's not for, so you can make the best determination for yourself as a consumer. And I know a bunch of people are gonna ask me, I'm also gonna review the Fitglow concealer, and I'm gonna compare all the formulas to this because y'all know it's my holy grail. Nothing beats it, and still nothing has. So the Fitglow concealer will be included in all the arm swatches. I'm gonna start with the newest launch, which is the Haus Labs Triclone Skin Tech Hydrating and Depuffing Concealer in the shade 12 Light Rosy. This has 31 shades, it's $22, and the website says a clean, lightweight, long-wearing, non-comedogenic concealer that does more than cover. It visibly blurs, brightens, and conceals with medium buildable coverage that depuffs after 2 weeks of use. Haus Tech powered with 20+ skincare ingredients, including our patent-pending fermented arnica. Quite a lot of claims there. Can't say that I've had any depuffing experiences from this, but also I don't have puffy under eyes. I would say my under eyes are more dehydrated, so puffiness isn't really an issue for me. I'm probably not the best consumer to test that claim. What I will say is that I disagree with the medium coverage claims. This bad boy is full coverage. Every person I know who's tried this has also said it's full coverage, so don't go into this expecting it to be a really lightweight, you know, kind of skin-like concealer. It's not. What this is a full coverage concealer that has a very kind of tacky, thicker, cream-like texture, and it is extraordinarily long wearing. This performed so well on me that after about 7 hours, I had barely noticed any fading, 0 creasing in this concealer as well, and which is pretty extraordinary considering it's quite thick. The only con that I noticed was because this is so long wearing and it dries down almost completely, I did notice that by the end of the day, my under eyes looked a tiny, tiny bit dry, but it was hardly noticeable, and I honestly was just nitpicking to come up with a con. I'm pretty impressed by how this performed. I'm also just so thrilled that a concealer that claims to have pink undertones actually has pink undertones. This is the pinkest of all of the concealers here. Almost all of the other concealers in this video claim to be cool, and you'll see when I get to the arm swatches that there is such an extraordinarily wide interpretation of what cool undertones look like. But this one is by far the most pink. And I'll drop in a clip now. I was doing a wear test for the Glossier foundation, the Haus Labs concealer, and the Merit eyeshadows, and I'll show you what they look like by the end of the day, and stay tuned for the Glossier and the Merit reviews. So it's 7:30 right now, and it's 4.5 hours into testing the Glossier foundation, the Haus Labs concealer, and the Merit Solo Shadow in Mid-Century. The Haus Labs concealer, I mean, I feel like it looks perfect. It looks freshly applied. I'm so impressed. I rarely come out of a wear test being this excited, so very happy with everything I purchased. So as you can see, the Haus Labs concealer looked really, really good by the end of the day, and it kept that coverage. I honestly don't think I would have needed to touch up. You know, anytime I do a wear test, I don't ever touch my face throughout the day. I don't powder, I don't do anything, I don't reapply, and this looked like almost freshly applied. So pretty impressed. The only con is that it's a little dry at the end of the day. And also, if you're used to a super thin, runny, lightweight concealer with not much coverage, just because I'm raving about it doesn't mean you should go out and buy it. Like, you might find this to be far too heavy for you if you're used to a really lightweight concealer. But for those of you who really want something full coverage that's gonna last a long time and be pretty budge proof, the shade range on this is incredible, and I think it's a great launch. I mean, leave it to Lady Gaga, someone who has been traveling the world and performs every night and also has chronic illness, to come up with a full coverage concealer that performs really well. The second newest concealer is the Live Tinted Hue Skin Serum Concealer. I have the shades 19 and 20, which are the 2 lightest shades. And if you're a new customer, you can get 15% off with my code LTKate15. The website says this light, medium to full coverage concealer instantly evens out dark circles and spots, while active ingredients fade and brighten their appearance over time. Infused with active levels of niacinamide, hyaluronic acid complex, bakuchiol, and caffeine, 4 powerhouse hydrating and brightening skincare ingredients, it's also buildable, so layer it to your desired level of coverage. This has 20 shades, and I noticed that they're a bit limited in the fair and the deep end of the spectrum, but I believe Live Tinted is a South Asian brand, so they focus and cater to, not exclusively, but they definitely focus on like medium and tan skin tones and really getting a lot of undertones right in that section. And honestly, I admire that. This is $26. You can get it at Live Tinted or at Ulta, and the texture is a cross between like a thicker, tackier concealer and a runnier concealer. So it's a really nice consistency, and it sets down, so it's super long wearing, but not entirely. There is still a little bit of bounce and a little bit of like a plumpness and a hydrated feeling on your skin, but because it sets, it's really nice and long wearing. I also totally agree with the claims about the coverage. I would say it starts out medium, almost full, and you can get it full very, very easily. It's just a fantastic concealer. This is officially my second favorite concealer, with Fitglow being number 1 and Haus Labs being number 3. One of my favorite things about this concealer is the applicator. I think this was just a really great idea. So it's a brush applicator, which is really nice for this texture, versus like a smaller doe foot applicator. I just find that it feels really nice to apply with a brush, and there's just a nice preciseness to it using a really nice flexible brush like this. I don't think I showed the Haus Labs applicator, but compared to the Haus Labs applicator, which is this like big chunkier doe foot, I just find it not quite as helpful to apply, especially because the Haus Labs concealer is so full coverage. I think Live Tinted's choice to use a brush was brilliant, and it honestly just feels really nice going on your eyes. It's also clear that brands are focusing on putting skincare ingredients into their concealers and foundations these days. I don't know the science behind that. I would love to speak with a cosmetic chemist or a formulator who can confirm, is your skin really getting those skincare ingredients if you already have foundation, sunscreen, and a bunch of layers of other skincare underneath? I'm not so sure, but it doesn't hurt, and honestly, this performs beautifully. It makes my under eyes look incredible. The only con for this concealer for me is similar to the Haus Labs. I feel like by the end of the day, because this is so long wearing, I do notice that it just starts looking a little bit dry by the end of the day, but honestly, it doesn't crease at all on me, just like the Haus Labs. It barely faded by the end of the day. I think it's a phenomenal option. I would say versus the Haus Labs, because they are quite similar in terms of the texture and the coverage. If you want something that looks a little bit more matte under the eyes, go for the Haus Labs. If you want something that has a teeny bit less coverage and is a tiny bit thinner in texture and a little bit dewier, then I would go Live Tinted. Personally, the Live Tinted is my favorite over the Haus Labs, but both are really great products. I'm actually going to talk about the Fitglow concealer now because this is most similar to the Live Tinted and the Haus Labs, and if you've been here for a while, you may have already purchased the Fitglow concealer based on my recommendation, and I want to throw it in here as a quick comparison. This is the Fitglow concealer in C2.5, and the website says this is a skin treatment, full coverage concealer that goes beyond just camouflaging problematic skin by working in harmony with your skin to improve its look and condition. The plant-powered blend of phytoelastin, organic green tea, vitamin K, and licorice root diminishes the look of blemishes, pigmentation, and fine lines, leaving skin stronger and smoother. The creamy texture blends flawlessly into the skin to provide a potent cover-up to areas that need more coverage. There's 18 really evenly balanced shades, and it's, I believe, the most expensive at $42. Absolutely nothing beats this concealer, and I don't think anything ever will. What I really love about Fitglow makeup is something you may not know because they don't actually advertise this on their website. The founder starts with skincare ingredients first and basically built an eye cream in this formula and then added mineral pigments to it. So versus something probably like the Live Tinted or the Tower 28 Serum Concealer, the Kosas Revealer Concealer, those probably started as makeup items and then they thought about what skincare ingredients they could add to it. But Fitglow's approach to makeup is skincare first, and that must be why this makes my under eyes look so incredible. It is the most coverage out of all of the concealers in this video, and yet on me, it is the most skin-like and the most flattering. It has a thicker, tackier finish, and out of every single concealer that has launched recently, this is the only one, after letting them sit on my arm for 10 minutes, that still felt plump and slightly dewy on my skin. Every other concealer dried down to an almost completely dry finish or just a tiny bit creamy. This was the only one that stayed looking like freshly applied skincare. This covers absolutely everything, but somehow just doesn't look heavy under the eyes. I will warn you though, this, the Live Tinted and the Haus Labs concealer, if you're used to drawing a whole triangle under your eyes, you're gonna be horrified by the way that your eyes look if you use these three concealers. You wanna start with just a little amount. And while I don't like the small little hard doe foot applicator on the Fitglow tube products, it is a good size because it just applies a tiny little amount. I also find that this looks so skin-like because it's quite hydrating under my eyes. And because of the thicker texture, I find that it really smooths over lines versus some of these like thinner serum-y concealers, like the Makeup Forever is the thinnest. Anything super runny, I find just sinks into lines and settles into them versus thicker products that kind of sit on top and smooth out the skin texture. And because this also has a tackier finish, meaning when you put it down, it isn't super blendable and stretchable, the coverage stays where you want it to stay. So these three concealers, the Haus Labs, Live Tinted, and Fitglow, are not ones that you can use in place of foundation really, unless you blend really aggressively. They are much tackier and thicker, so they're really meant more for blemishes and under eye concealing. Versus something like the Tower 28 that has this more thinner, kind of like creamy, super blendable texture. You could use this all over your face in place of foundation and you could just blend it out pretty easily. So purchasing a concealer also really depends on how you want to use it in addition to all of your other preferences. Quick little insider tip on the Fitglow concealer as well. Fitglow unfortunately does not allow returns on opened products, and obviously that can be really frustrating when you're trying to find a shade match. So first thing you can do is you can DM the brand for help with a shade match, or there are certain retailers that actually sell samples of the Fitglow concealer. I believe Integrity Botanicals is one of them. It might have been Credo or Detox Market, that was another one. I forget, but if you Google Fitglow concealer samples, I'm sure something will come up. So that's an option for you to try before you buy, because this is $42. I've been using this for well over 4 years and nothing beats it. It's just amazing. Next, we have the Makeup by Mario Surreal Skin Awakening Concealer. I have the shade 160. The website says, a pro performance multi-use concealer that visibly lifts, blurs, and brightens the under eye and complexion for an awakened appearance with a natural skin-like finish. This medium coverage, buildable formula conceals even the darkest under eye circles. Formulated with lift and lock technology, the caffeine-infused concealer depuffs, tightens, and smooths, while the self-setting formula locks it all in, resulting in a lifted, awakened look. All 22 shades are crease-proof and long-wearing. This is $29 and they have 22 shades. This is quite a weird shade range for me. It's not very balanced, and if you go and swatch it at Sephora, you will notice this whole range is very yellow. So if you have cool skin like I have, I would just go right ahead and skip it. But if you have neutral or warm skin, you might find a shade that matches you really well. For me, this concealer looks incredible from far away and trash up close. It just kind of sets down to a powder finish, so it looks blurred from far away. And first, when you apply it, it's quite creamy. I would say it's perfectly somewhere in the middle between the runniest concealer I've ever tried, which is the Makeup Forever one I'll talk about soon, and the Haus Labs concealer, or like the Rem Beauty concealer. These are probably the heaviest, thicker concealers I've tried. The Makeup by Mario is somewhere in the middle. So you can use it under your eyes, you can use it in place of foundation. It is more multi-purpose in that sense, but I would say way too light coverage to use on blemishes. Unfortunately, I think the thing that makes this look so good from far away is what makes it look so bad up close. And a lot of you have DM'd me that you had the exact same experience. I posted an Instagram reel of this concealer. Actually, I posted Instagram reels of all these concealers, so you can check out my page if you want to see dedicated reviews. But you guys agreed, this made your under eyes look so textured, and it just emphasizes texture and fine lines I didn't even know I had. You know, with most concealers, I have one, I'll show you here. Hold on, let me zoom you in. I'm wearing the Fitglow concealer, by the way. So this one line here that kind of runs diagonally is the one line I look for to see how a concealer performs. I have it less on this eye, but if I smile, you can see it go here, like that. Those diagonal lines, those are ones that no concealer is gonna smooth over. But all of the other ones, you know, you really can't see any other texture under my eyes. With the Makeup by Mario concealer, on the other hand, I feel like this gave me lines. It just looked so textured and like crinkly. It was very bizarre. You'll also see when we get to the swatches that this is the most yellow. This is the shade 160. It's supposed to be cool toned. It's not at all. I did go to Sephora when I was in LA recently, and I swatched all the shades darker than this because this is far too light for me. And all the darker shades looked literally like yellow color corrector under my eyes. So unfortunately, this one is a pass for me. Tower 28 also launched a concealer. This is the Swipe All Over Hydrating Serum Concealer, and they sent me the shades BH and BU. The website says, a hydrating concealer that glides on like a serum, but has the medium buildable coverage power to instantly cover dark circles, redness, and blemishes. It's weightless, easy to blend, and has a hydrating skin-like natural finish that doesn't cling to dry patches. This also has an earth-sensitive pledge. Swipe packaging is made from 50% post-consumer recycled plastic as part of Tower 28's commitment to sustainable packaging. I really love that, and I admire them for that. This has a really nice price point at $22, and it comes in 20 shades. Unfortunately, there's no shade match for me in this range. Same with Makeup by Mario. I'll put in a picture here of my friend Laura, who's Discerning Spark on Instagram. She swatched all of the colors. Her skin's actually neutral, and you can see how yellow the shade range is, so unfortunately, this doesn't work for me. Texture-wise, if you've tried the Kosas Revealer Concealer and you loved it, I think you'll love this. If you tried the Kosas Revealer Concealer and you hated it, then I think you'll hate this, and I fall into the latter camp. Much like the Kosas Revealer Concealer, I found that this really emphasized my under eye lines, especially the one that goes diagonally across my lines. I do tend to find that concealers that have a thinner finish really just kind of settle into lines rather than smoothing over them. So for me, this doesn't work, but I have a lot of friends who absolutely swear by this and the Kosas, and they feel like those are the best concealers ever invented. So I feel like you fall in either camp. It's usually like you're super mega fans of those concealers or they look like trash on you. I would say this has medium coverage that's not buildable. There's no way in hell you can get this to full coverage. I would say you could even just apply a little bit and that would be light coverage. So err on the more light medium end of the spectrum here. And it's so incredibly similar to the Kosas concealer. I think if you liked that texture, you'll probably like this one and vice versa. In terms of the finish and the dry down, this one did dry down a little bit, but not as much as the Haus Labs, the Makeup Forever, and the Makeup by Mario. Those three dried down the most. This one did still stay a little bit creamy on my hand, but not as creamy and bouncy as the Live Tinted, and then especially the Fitglow. So I'd say if you like the Kosas concealer, you'll probably like this too. If not, give it a pass. And lastly, we have the Makeup Forever HD Skin Concealer in 1.5R and 2R. The website says, a feather light buildable concealer that visibly smooths, brightens, and corrects under eyes with an undetectable real skin finish and 24-hour wear. This skincare inspired formula is infused with a smooth skin complex powered by hyaluronic acid, jojoba oil, and snow mushroom to visibly plump the look of fine lines, blur texture, and hydrate the under eye area. This gel-like texture is easily blendable and buildable with no caking or creasing. This innovative formula provides a natural, real skin finish with soft focus powders to blur and coated pigments to color correct the under eyes seamlessly without caking or creasing all day long. Holy shit, that was a mouthful, you guys. Makeup Forever really hyping this up. Okay, this is $29. It comes in 20 shades, and much like some of the other concealers here, this range is so yellow and so orange. And it's not just me. I know I say that a lot because I have cool skin with pink undertones. You can watch Nikki LaRose, who is a professional makeup artist, recently did a video where she tried new makeup launches. She tried this concealer and she had exactly the same thoughts that I have. She agreed this is the most like watery, runny, slippy concealer she's ever tried. When you swatch it on your hand next to other concealers, you'll really see the stark difference in texture, how this looks practically like water on the skin, which sounds nice in theory, but in practice doesn't really work out so well. And Nikki LaRose said the same thing. This is not even medium coverage. This couldn't even cover her under eye corrector that she used. This is light coverage max. It has a very thin watery texture. And I do find from far away, like the Makeup by Mario concealer, it looks nice from far away. Those, you know, coated powder pigments that they talked about, I think are what give you that kind of blurred texture from far away. And I get what they're saying about all the skincare ingredients and how they made this a feather light texture, but it just doesn't work in reality because this dries down completely matte. When I applied every concealer on my arm and let them dry down, this was the driest texture out of all of it. It made my skin look so incredibly textured. So I think the marketing on this one was just a little overhyped, and I think this is a step down from the previous HD Skin Concealer, which was the self-setting one. It had more coverage, it had a thicker, kind of more blurring texture. I don't really know what they were trying to do with this. All right, now let's get to the swatches and the texture shots. Here's a picture of all the concealers swatched on my arm. This is a combination of artificial and natural lighting, and I think this is probably the most accurate lighting out of all of the pictures. So from left to right, the one closest to my hand, we have the Fitglow concealer in C2.5, which historically has been my best match. The second swatch is the lightest shade. It's Tower 28 BH. The third is Tower 28 BU. Then we have Makeup Forever 1.5 R. You can see just how peach the Makeup Forever concealers look. Both of them look very, very orange on my arm here, even though they're both supposed to be rosy. The fifth swatch is that really yellow one, and that is the Makeup by Mario concealer in 160. Again, that was supposed to have cool undertones and it looks yellow. After that, we have Live Tinted 20, which is the lightest shade of the Live Tinted range. And that's actually a really good match for me. So if you have skin that's any lighter than mine, I don't think you will have a match in the Live Tinted concealer range. After that, that super orange one is Makeup Forever 2R. To the right of the orange Makeup Forever concealer is Live Tinted 19. That's a perfect shade match for my face, but it does look a little bit peach under my eyes, so I actually sometimes mix 19 and 20 for my perfect shade. The ninth swatch is the Haus Labs concealer in 12 Light Rosy, which is a really great shade match for under my eyes. Number 10, which you can see is almost exactly the same as Haus Labs, is again the Fitglow concealer in C2.5. I wanted to reference that a couple times on my arm. And then I threw in another concealer that I thought you might want a comparison of, which is Kulfi Ice Berry. That one is a little bit too yellow and a little bit too dark for my face. This was taken in a dark bathroom with a heavy flash on. So again, from left to right, we have the Fitglow concealer in C2.5, Tower 28 BH, Tower 28 BU, Makeup Forever 1.5R, Makeup by Mario 160, Live Tinted 20, Makeup Forever 2R, Live Tinted 19, Haus Labs 12 Light Rosy, Fitglow C2.5 again, and then Kulfi Ice Berry. I think here you can really see the Kulfi concealer in Ice Berry, how it's a lot more peach than it looked in the last clip. And I think you can also see a little bit of the pink undertones better in Haus Labs. Here we have arm swatches in direct lighting, and I think what we can see best is that those Makeup Forever concealers are so orange and the Makeup by Mario is really yellow. Tower 28 BH in particular is very light. But you know, I really find that YouTubers who do extra B-roll and product shots always tend to shoot products and swatches in direct lighting outside, but I actually don't find that that is super accurate. For example, if you look at all the concealers on the right at the end, they all look exactly the same. But if you reference back the other clips that we showed, they look pretty different. So that's why I think it's important to look at everything in a lot of different lighting so you can get the most accurate representation of the product. I also think that indirect lighting is great at showing accurate color representation. So as you can see here again, you can really see how light the Tower 28 BH concealer is. I think you can see also the more pink undertones of the Haus Labs concealer come out. So this is just a different example. You can pause and read all the shade names if you like, but I'm not going to talk through every single shade every time. I have a couple other pictures in different lighting that I'll put on the screen here, and I'm not going to talk through every shade because you can obviously see what's on the screen, but feel free to pause at any point and just, you know, look at the concealers in more detail. But now let's move on to the texture. Rather than just talking about the differences in texture of all these concealers, I might as well show you. So first of all, let's discuss the finish. On the left here, we have my beloved Fitglow concealer in C2.5. You can see it does have quite a hydrated, dewy finish. It's full coverage. You can't see any skin through there. And it does have quite a beautiful blurring finish on the skin. So the Fitglow to me is the most smoothing and has the highest coverage. To me, nothing beats it. Then we have Haus Labs here, which you can't really see in this light, but is the most pink. And also, compared to Live Tinted right here, Live Tinted markets itself as full coverage. Haus Labs says it's medium coverage, but in practice, I think they're actually the other way around. See how you can see some of the skin on the Live Tinted one coming through? I think it's more medium buildable. And then the Haus Labs, which is the second swatch here, looks very full coverage. Haus Labs also has, I would say, yeah, almost exactly the same texture as the Fitglow concealer, but the Haus Labs is a little bit heavier or a little bit, I want to say, tackier. Like, it's not quite as blendable. Not that Fitglow's a blendable concealer. I like that it has a tacky finish so that it stays in place, but Haus Labs is definitely the thickest, definitely the heaviest concealer. Then we have Live Tinted right here, which has more of a liquidy consistency. It's still medium to full coverage, buildable. It does have a little bit of a dewy finish, but compared to Fitglow, I think that Haus Labs and Live Tinted have less of a dewiness to them, which is why Fitglow to me is just unbeatable in terms of the way it makes the skin look. Live Tinted and Haus Labs don't beat Fitglow just because they don't make my under eyes look quite as hydrated or smooth. This yellow concealer right here is Makeup by Mario 160. And now we're getting into the thinner concealers. This one's definitely, I would say, like light to medium buildable coverage. You definitely cannot get the Makeup by Mario to full coverage. It has a thinner consistency, but it does feel quite tacky. So it's thinner, but still tacky. And unfortunately, this one's just really creasy on me. So the Makeup by Mario definitely didn't work out. And interestingly, you'll see it when I get out of the direct sunlight, but as I've blended Fitglow, Fitglow has retained that hydrated base, whereas Haus Labs, Live Tinted, and Makeup by Mario have started kind of setting and drying down. In fact, the Makeup by Mario feels the driest. Next, this unblended one here is Tower 28, and it's much, much thinner and much more lightweight and has less coverage. I would say that it's medium, and it has a thin, lightweight, but creamy consistency, very similar in texture to the Kosas Revealer Concealer. If you've tried the Kosas, you probably don't need the Tower 28, but if you like the Kosas, then maybe you'd love the Tower 28. And lastly, this super watery, runny looking one that doesn't have any coverage and kind of emphasizes texture, that is the Makeup Forever HD Skin Concealer that I just absolutely hate. This claims to have medium coverage, but it is light coverage and you can't build it up, and I just find that that because it's so runny, it settles into lines and it just doesn't look very flattering under the eyes. And I just touched every concealer swatch, and interestingly, the driest one is Tower 28, and I think that's why it makes my under eyes look not so great. The concealers that still feel a bit bouncy on my hand are Fitglow, Haus Labs, and Live Tinted. Makeup by Mario dried down, Tower 28 dried down, and then Makeup Forever is super thin and feels still a little bit watery and like hydrated, but it's drying. I hope you can see this texture right here. It is really emphasizing texture on my hand, and that's exactly what it does under the eyes. That's why these 3 concealers are my favorite. Now showing you in indirect lighting, see how those 3 concealers on the end here are just kind of emphasizing texture. They're settling into pores and hair follicles and lines, and they just look a little cakey and they don't have coverage. So we have Makeup Forever, then we have Tower 28, and then Makeup by Mario. Almost all of them also completely set down and dried, whereas we have Fitglow right here, then we have Haus Labs, which did dry down, so it's not looking quite as seamless as the others, and then Live Tinted stayed kind of creamy. So Live Tinted and Fitglow are my favorites. The rest, surprisingly, actually completely dried down. Fitglow and Live Tinted were the only concealers that remained somewhat dewy and hydrated on my skin. I mean, this side of my hand with those lighter coverage, thinner serum-y consistency concealers is completely dry to the touch, whereas Fitglow and Live Tinted are still bouncy and plump. All right, that's it. Those are all the new concealer launches. I hope this was helpful to you and you found something that you might want to purchase, or maybe this video helped you save money. Let me know if you've tried any of these concealers and if you either share the same opinions or if you have a different experience. I think it's really important for us to always, share different experiences because we all have different skin types, skin texture, skin conditions. We use our bodies in different ways throughout the day. Some of us are more active than others. I just think it's important to also have that extra context. So if you tried the concealers, let us know what your experience with them was, and wherever you are, I hope you're having an awesome day. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.